everybody, and welcome back to my channel, where this video is nearly a year in the making. Why do I say that? Well, at the beginning of 2022, the first ever stream I did, because it was a Friday, I believe, or, well, the first ever crafting stream I did, I asked my Twitch chat to choose a miniature out of 3 that I would be painting for the entirety of this year on stream, only on stream, can't do anything other than, you know, paint it on stream, essentially, and build it on stream. And they chose the Everqueen. Now, the Everqueen is a very near and dear character and model to my heart. Now, typically I am a Dark Elf player. If you don't know much about Warhammer, the elves have split off into 3 groups. There are the High Elves, which are your stereotypical light, sun, fluffy, everything is amazing High Elves. You have your Dark Elves, who are, think elves on BDSM and just evil. And I do mean that in the most basic form. They have slavery, they worship a god of murder, and I can go into that in detail how that can make them sometimes morally ambiguous, because I played a Dark Elf for about 13 years, and she was most people considered her dangerous but morally grey, so there's that. And then there's the Wood Elves, who are kind of a mix between the two. So in the history of the elves, originally there was only the elves, and they were originally ruled by the Phoenix King. I can't remember his name at the moment. Etherean? Oh, I can't remember. And the Everqueen. Now, the Everqueen died, and the Phoenix King took the Shadow Queen Marathi, who is Malekith's mother, as his new wife, and they raised their new son Malekith to be the next Phoenix King. Of course, the current Phoenix King decided to abdicate his throne and off the fuck off into the Chaos Wastes and the Chaos Realms to fight chaos, and it went horribly wrong. And I mean, I'm going to gloss over that because that's not really that important. Essentially, about 5,000 years ago, Malekith decided to try and take the Phoenix King from throne from the then recrowned Phoenix King, because basically the High Elves decided that they just wanted peace after decades of war. Understandable, let's be honest. And he said, no, the demons are coming for us, we need to continue with what we're doing. And when the elves went, no, we want peace, he essentially abdicated off to the north for a bit, into a place called Nagrand, and essentially became the Witch King. Well, it took a while after that, but he became the Witch King and started a civil war, and that's why there's the Dark Elves and the High Elves. What does this all have to do with the Everqueen? Well, we come to the point of the Everqueen nowadays. She is Allarielle, the chosen of Isha, who is the goddess of life and healing. Beautiful, lovely lady, apparently. Not met her myself because it's a fantasy world. But she is the current Everqueen chosen by the goddess Isha, and she is also the only High Elf to be welcomed into the Wood Elves' home, as their goddess has requested that she be allowed to enter the Everglade, where there's the tree where the goddess lives, and her avatar, Allarielle. Now, Allarielle is poisoned by Marathi and murdered, who it turns out Marathi is her sister, and Allarielle transfers all of her powers to the Everqueen Allarielle and starts the final battle of the world of Warhammer, which then leads into the Age of Sigmar. So she's a pretty important character, especially with considering that she inevitably eventually ends up marrying Malekith, because he is the true Phoenix King, it turns out, and even though he was driven insane and is now an evil bastard, he was the chosen of the gods, of the elves, to become the next leader of the elves, so that he could hopefully lead the elves against chaos and win. And because the elves were too weak and decided that they wanted peace over war, they have essentially doomed the entirety of the worlds of Warhammer to chaos. They can't win anymore against Chaos, so Allarielle must marry Malekith and bolster the forces of the elves and humans to hopefully, inevitably be able to defeat Chaos. Or if not defeat it, at least put up a hell of a good fight. Now, she's begrudging to do this because she is actually in love with Malekith's nephew, Tyrion. So essentially, it turns out that his father's first wife, the original Everqueen, was not murdered. She was kidnapped and carried off. And she was pregnant at the time. And she had Malekith's half-brother and sister, I believe. And I don't really follow the original Everqueen's bloodline too closely, to be honest. It's a bit weird. And she gave birth to a son and a daughter, and one of the two of them inevitably gave birth to the twin princelings Tyrion and Teclis. Now, Tyrion is a warrior. He is essentially Malekith's father reborn, or everyone says he is. Of course, this isn't the case because Malekith is his father reborn, but they say that Tyrion is the good one. He should rule and become the Phoenix King. Of course, the then Phoenix King of the time is not too pleased with this and is like, no, I'm the Phoenix King, I'm the ruler, I'm the one in charge. And Teclis is the sorcerer supreme, essentially, let's say, and he goes off and researches the way the world works and finds out that all of this is coming, and he approaches the Everqueen and tries to get her to understand that Malekith is in the right and Tyrion is in the wrong, and she refuses to believe him because she wholeheartedly loves and adores Tyrion. Now, it turns out that Tyrion is not as infallible and wonderful as everyone thinks, because as soon as chaos starts to reign, the bloody-handed god Cain possesses him and makes him his avatar. Now, no one believes this at first because Malekith is the essential epitome of Cain, and has for the last 5,000 years declared himself as the avatar of Cain, and Cain has never really argued with him. He has no reason to argue with him, if he's honest. However, Malekith, the Witch King, decides to go and do more research and is approached by Teclis, who tells him that no, he is not Cain. He is actually Azurian, the god of war and the lead of all the elven gods. Now, unsure why this would be the case, Malekith takes what he's given and accepts the help of the traitorous High Elf sorcerer to kill the current Phoenix King and start off some other things that happen to gain the end of the world, but also so that he can become the king of the High Elves, or just the king of the elves. He is very, very surprised to find that when he arrives on Ulthuan, the home of the elves, that the Everqueen is there waiting for him, and she has brought with her from the Sylvanian woods the Wood Elves. Now, the Wood Elves don't particularly care for the battle between the High Elves and the Dark Elves. They just care for the fact that they are guarding the avatar, the new avatar of their goddess Isha, who is now Allarielle, the Everqueen. So, with this all in motion, the Great War starts, and unfortunately, they don't win. Or, they don't win in the conventional sense. The world is destroyed and cast off into fragments, which then become the realms. Now, each realm has its own element, and Allarielle, who is so powerful in life, becomes the leader of the elemental plane of life, and she becomes again the Everqueen, but in the sense that she is Allarielle, Isha the Everqueen. She is the goddess of life, the embodiment of life. But she, however, does not really rule over elves anymore. She now rules over the dryads, the branch wraiths, and the mixed race creatures. And when I say that, there are a race of elfin type creatures that are half elf, half tree. and they're called the Sylvanians, and now she rules over the Sylvanians. Now, the elves of all realms give her honor. So the same way that I worship all gods, all Norse gods, I give them honor, but Loki is the one that I actively work with and worship. Therefore, this is the kind of way that that works. So everyone honors the Everqueen, and if they need something from her, they will pray to her or give her offerings, and she will sometimes answer their prayers. Not all the time, but otherwise she is, worshipped only really by the Sylvanians. And Teclis becomes the ruler of the winds of knowledge and light, I believe. And we don't know what happens to Malekith. I believe he becomes, he's named Malfurion now. I can't remember exactly what his name is, but he is the son of Shadow, I believe. And his mother becomes the Queen of Cain and is the Queen of Shadows, which is kind of strange considering Marathi has her own long list of things that she's done that is not good. And she's also very, very much was a Slaneshi at one point, which Cain was very much against. But you know what? That's a lot of backstory and probably a lot of it not described very well or making a lot of sense. So let's get back to why this model is important to me. For a start, it was bought for me by a very, very close friend. Now, the reason he bought this for me is I originally painted this model in 1997. My dad had just started doing Warhammer, and he decided to collect the elves simply because his two little girls, I was 9 at the time, I believe, and my sister was 7, said that they had the pretty female warriors, and my dad has always been one to collect female warriors. So he picked up this mini and he said to me, "You can paint her." He also gave me the vampire count leader Neferati to paint as well, and I have found out that she also has a model herself now. I'm going to have to pick that one up to join the Everqueen when she's finished, but that again isn't a tale for another time. So I painted that model, and when the Everqueen was announced, I was super duper excited because I really wanted to have a look at it, buy the model and repaint it. Now, before that, I could do that because she's an incredibly expensive model. As much as I love Warhammer and Games Workshop, their miniatures are expensive, but they are gorgeous. However, before that happened, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't get hold of it. And I had another friend who sadly passed at the beginning of this year who had the original Everqueen miniature and her handmaidens. In fact, if you go back through my channel, you will find a painting video where I paint some of them on video, and also a video where I take you through what each individual model looks like after I've completed all of them, including the Everqueen. And she was the best miniature that I'd ever painted for a very, very long time. I was proud of her. I'm still proud of her. I do see where I could have improved, and I am happy to say that I have very slowly started to improve in those areas. Very slowly, but I'm still improving. So when this mini was announced, I immediately said that I was going to paint her with the green dress that I had originally put her in on my second attempt at painting the original Everqueen model. The first rendition that I painted of her was in a lovely lilac coloured dress. However, I couldn't find a lilac that I liked working with or that worked really, really well, and also I kind of thought the darker green would work very, very well in making her stand out in my rendition of the Everqueen, because a lot of people who paint this miniature paint her with a white dress, and I didn't want to do that. So I painted her with a dark green dress and gave her dark black branches to represent cherry trees, wood, because it's quite dark. And then on top of that, we decided, the chat as a whole and myself, that we were going to paint the white leaves with the delicate pink highlights to give the cherry blossoms to go with the wood. So she overall is quite a dark figure, which is lovely when you contrast it with the bright white of the leaves. and it just adds a pop of colour, especially on the giant beetle Humphrey, which I believe I do start to paint in this video. If not, that will be the next one. I have not managed to finish her this year, unfortunately. The second friend that I mentioned that gave me the original Everqueen model to repaint, he sadly passed very early this year, and it took me a good couple of weeks, nearly a month, to be able to return to that mini on stream and have the confidence to touch it again. Also, there's been a lot of other things going throughout the year, my health, my family's health, both mental and physical, which means that I haven't finished her, but I have made a heck of a good start. So she will be finished next year. I'm going to continue painting her next year, and I will also continue to paint her sister model, because I do have it, Marathi, the Queen of Shadow and Blades. Now, once the two of them are finished, I will do a showcase. But until then, I hope you have enjoyed this video, even though it's a very, very long ramble, and a lot of it probably doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Take care, have fun, and goodbye.